welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 13.18, and while we did just have a nice meta shift with the Spear of Shojin Gore Drinker patch, right, I've decided to shift up the game just a little bit again, but the result is a quite different meta in terms of the top of the pile. Jarvan had his passive nerfed by 25%, they removed 5 AD from Spear of Shojin, Kayn has been nerfed once more, and along with a few other changes, we will go over the best junglers overall, the best junglers for low and high MMR, and show you the juice on how to climb as we head towards Worlds. If you want help implementing this information into your own game, I have a free jungle improvement resource and a dedicated program where we have jungle video courses, jungle coaching VOD libraries, weekly coaching classes, Q&As, patch note rundowns, private high elo streams, as well as a private jungle Discord. And I know how to make junglers convert from low elo to gold to emerald to diamond to master plus. If you want to climb faster than anybody you know, jungle diff every game you play, head to virkayu.gg. Right, first up on the S tier page, we still have Jarvan, and you would say, well, didn't you just say his passive was nerfed by 2% max HP? Which for the uninitiated is a 25% nerf. Yes, he was, except the guy was OP, and he could EQ 10,000 times a second. Now, his clear has been nerfed, his overall damage from the passive has been nerfed as well, but he can still EQ 10,000 times a second. These sorts of changes are great to kind of slow the tempo of certain junglers like a Jarvan who had high tempo control. The thing is, people aren't frustrated that he does a lot of damage when he actually goes in. It's that he can go out and then go in again and go out and go in again. And the root of that is from the 12.14 buffs last year where they made his E have a scaling cooldown by 2 seconds versus a flat cooldown, which means haste is always going to be really good on him. Of course, you add in all the resistances, well not resistances, but health from the Gore Drinker fighter builds, and obviously the AD scaling they gave to his W for that shield equals an obnoxious champion. So while this is a nerf to Jarvan, it doesn't stop the flavor of the month haste builders abusing that which makes him actually strong. So hopefully Riot will revisit this in the coming patches, but Bel'Veth is my spicy pick. Slap it up the number 2. One guy just got ranked 1 on the E-West server, first time to 2k LP. Stridebreaker, really strong. That's right, they gave it free HP when it was already best in slot on Bel'Veth for multiple patches. I kept saying, guys, Stridebreaker is the thing, look at the data. People kept rushing Kraken and going with Jackshaw Radiant Virtue builds, which do have their place. However, I've always preferred the former rank 1 E-West Bel'Veth challenger player who likes the aggressive style, the carry style, the make things happen style. And when you add something like, Stridebreaker, Kraken, and Wit's End, you're looking at like a 65% win rate at a 3 item spike. That's nuts. The best thing about this is you don't actually have to overexert yourself early because as long as you get a Herald, a few shutdowns here, you get your true form, as long as your econ, your gold permitted and experience permitted is good, that's when you're gonna pop off with this itemization spike. So if you don't exactly get a red side quadrant into ganking action in this particular meta, fret not. The itemization is so good that once you get there, you should have enough control to actually elevate and snowball and close by 25. Use your fishies well. Next up, I'm putting Kha'Zix here because again, when you shift metas around and nerf certain champions in certain aspects, the champions who are meta dependent in terms of their matchups end up going up and down as things change. Thing is, Kha'Zix, while not totally blind pickable, is pretty damn easy to smurf with at this stage. He has been strong for multiple patches, he has a burst, he has a slipperiness, he has a snowball component, and again, like Bel'Veth, doesn't really need to overly force things early. All you're looking for is those opportunistic pigs, a few kills here and there, and now you're walking into the enemy jungle and just eviscerating them entirely, and taking their grump. You'd think things like nerf Dustblade make a difference, but honestly, they don't. The item was overtuned, and now it's just, tuned. There's nothing but your individual skill stop you from living a bug's life. And the pick I warned everybody about last patch when they buffed Gore Drinker and Spear of Shojin and made a video on how to counter the particular meta we're in, I said, hey Lilia, percentage HP, healing, swoop-de-doops with the true damage and sweet spot damage, untouchable because of the 4-stack passive, an ultimate that can be used in a nursery to make everybody sleep on a dime and all parents rejoice. Not only is she making a lullaby for the enemy jungler, she's doing it for the team as well. Strong skirmisher, a strong farmer, easily 20k heals in a game. You're looking at something that is a little bit irritating to play against, can feel like she has no counterplay when she gets going because you just cannot get on top of her, you cannot stay on her, and she kites you out, burns you down, trickles you down, slows you down, and wins the game. Lilia is my strong OP pick. If you can make this thing work, again, easy to use, but definitely hard to master in sort of how you want to play the champion. So good accessibility, good skill expression as you learn to get better at the game in the jungle and her. Yeah, this is the power pick. Now, the one that goes down is, of course, Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai has been great since they reworked her basically. Despite a couple nerfs, it helps that they buff Stryberka as well, but overall, I don't think the champion has, while her win rate is good and her pick rate and everything is good, she doesn't have that same meta urgency that other champions in this video do. I put her here because she is actually an S+ champion. She is actually something that will easily 1v9, a Smurf jungler can pick up and get challenger easy with her, but despite all of this objective truth about her state, it does feel like she's one of the odd ones out on this page. However, she's still good, she's powerful, go win your game. And obviously she's great against things like Evelynn, so we put Evelynn beneath Rek'Sai because Rek'Sai kills Evelynn. Also, Evelynn is very strong. Evelynn has always been strong, and Evelynn's developing this fiddlestick Shaco kind of presence in the meta. Yeah, she's great to one trick, but you take an Evelynn main and put them on something else and you watch their path thing and you're thinking, do you know how to path when you are not invisible? So she has this special spot in the meta where, you know, she can kind of do her own thing and exist in her own way and play according to her own win conditions. And that's exactly why Fiddlesticks is always in the meta. Until they directly change AP atomization a little bit as we head towards the end of Mythics, or they directly nerf the Evelynn, she's gonna be here. Which is a damn good rule of thumb for ADCs, so if you could always imagine Evelynn's, you know, about to kill you, that would help us a lot and you could place a control with as well. Next up we have Graves, who is still in that very strong spot. I don't think he's in any sort of, he needs buffs or nerfs spot at the particular stage, but the guy is extremely strong in the right hands. While we are seeing these sort of Gold Drinker, Stride Breaker, and maybe a Trinity Force build, I'm not really one of those people. I think you should just keep it simple, stupid, and go with Ghostblade in your collector builds. Make sure you have a Black Cleaver, Lord Doms as necessary. Become the thing that you actually hate to face, yes? The stuff that snowballs and just one-shots you and isn't reliant on auto attack or DPS, or pressing a button, or, you know, hey, I need to stay in this elongated fight. Just kill the crucial targets, have good macro, you never have to team fight, you'll have 10 CS per minute, enemy junglers obliterated, and you end the game. I mean, obviously easier said than done. You need to make sure your combos are fluid and juicy. That's why we cover all of these things in the tips and tricks video, as well as in the private Discord. A lot of good expert mains there to help you out with the champion tips. But if that's not your thing, then Nocturne might be your thing, because you don't really need to worry about combos. You can beat Master Yi's, you can take fights that you probably think you can't take, but you can. Get to limit testing that a little bit with your lethal tempo, spell shield with an attack speed boost, a nice fear tether, strong farming, game-changing ultimate, and the powerful mid-game macro that you can use to leverage pressure into collapses with your ultimate equals you should always have the numbers advantage. Yes, you can do your Duskblade and Axiom Arcs. No, I don't recommend it. I recommend your Stridebreaker, Black Cleaver, Shojins, and GAs, maybe a Morph Mortis if you want to complete that. Just keep it simple, like with the Graves. Play the builds that work, play the builds that make you immortal, and when you're immortal, well, you win and gain LP. That's exactly why Hecarim is on the next page, because not only are people not getting it, just Ghost Spear of Shojin and Stridebreaker and Gold Drinker, they are still building Duskblade. This means you are not immortal. This means you are the opposite of that. You go in like a fighter, you die like an assassin who went in like a fighter. You follow? When you're Duskblade Hecarim, you have to flank, you have to play like an assassin, you have to go in and out, you have to use your phase rush correctly, your movement speed correctly, the reset on Duskblade correctly. They also nerfed it for Mana Moon, which means you can't really go that build anymore at all. Build correctly and the horse is strong. Not as strong as he has been this season, because obviously you just can't one-shot people for free now, and you are killable thanks to the nerf and the W, but that's why we have the fighter build now. And when you do that, he is an S+ jungler. A jungler whose play rate is actually increasing is Echo. Now again, he's been in and out of this tier list a little bit. I do recommend him as one of the best to main because he's also in his unique spot in the meta. Yeah, he doesn't really control it, but he also isn't necessarily destroyed by it. And you can play Echo pretty much easily in most comps. Understand your counter ganking and your tempo control, but the Time Lord is still good. Next up with Fiddlesticks. We show footage of Fiddlesticks R-ing people despite doing nothing the rest of the game. We show Fiddlesticks doing a few sucky-suckies and then healing and winning. And that's all you need to know about the best jungler to one-trick in League of Legends. Although if you're a high elo player, then that might actually be Nidalee just because of her skill expression. Now she is actually unholy strong at the moment, but most people just cannot pilot her. However, when she is overly strong, even those with mediocre piloting skills can see some success. Not the most success, some success. If you like pressure cooked meals and pressure cooked jungling, Nidalee's the way to go. Or if you prefer a Luna-based calendar, then Diana will do the job. I think a lot of people are noticing that her damage is a little bit ridiculous and the buffs she got were actually enough to send her back over the edge. I said that when she was buffed, and I always know she's popular because of how the views work in the videos with Diana over the years. Get a lot of Dianas in coaching and in the Discord and in the courses. You see Diana everywhere basically. However, people think she's boring. And I don't agree with that whatsoever, because when you see the damage profile, the output, people are too locked in on the Sunfire days. Go Assassin, play it properly, go in, snowball. You're gonna see the fact that you can carry and split push any game state in any elo. oh no, they nerfed Kayn, my champion is ruined. That's all you ever hear, and then you look at it and you're like, oh, well, you know, if blue Kayn was doing 140 out of 100 damage to my health and I would just die, and you nerf the 40 damage, you know, it still kills me, right? That's how it works when you're being overkilled by a champion. At the same time, Rast, while he was strong, I don't think anyone was saying, hey, look, Rast is destroying games. So while the nerf to healing later does suck, the buff to healing early is good. And I'm not always a fan of reducing AD ratios in champions like this, but they don't want him to be going full on Assassin Slayer, and they're really trying to take that away. We had this about a year ago as well when it was extremely strong. They already nerfed AD ratios on Rast specifically. So it looks like they're doing that again here, but I don't think any K-main should really care. Just play your champion, lock him in, do your work, choose the right form, and guess what? If you're blue or red, you just go Gold Drinker anyway. Unlike Viego, who does have a bit more itemization diversity, although most of us have realized, hey, this is a 24's cracking combo. Slapping a Black Cleaver for your troubles, and maybe a Death's Dance and a GA, could have a more of my Mortius. I have seen some Sterix as well. You're looking at a champion that has been good in high elo for multiple patches. It's rare that Viego is actually good in high elo and popular, but really suffering in general population. He's actually doing quite fine in general population at the moment, even if the win rate isn't as juicy. There are crit-focused alternatives if you want to go off-meta builds, which are a little bit ridiculous to be honest with you. All you need to know is that if you understand Viego, and you understand other champions, and you fuse them together with right itemization, this champion provides you an insane package. And finally, yes, I could have put Karthus again, because he's still good, and a few other champions, but it's now too late to ignore the fact that I'm seeing 1, a lot more Shakos at pick rates above 5%, and 2, his win rate's 51.5% or something like that. The champion's buffs that they gave him a few times to force people to go AD have helped people realize, oh, wait a second, if I just play the cheese game properly, if I understand the ganking game properly, and then I prevent them from ever setting up for team fights, hey, we can win! Mind game and clown business are once more afoot. Shaco is back on the list. Following this, we have the classical low elo page, and obviously you're going to see here a bit of a shift in the order. Shyvana's still great, absolutely fine to probably get gold or platinum with, but I really wouldn't play Diamond Plus, maybe even Emerald Plus. She just falls off. The direct nerfs to her stat checking, that really costs her. Rammus is great because you know what? Bel'Veth is super strong. You can use Bel'Veth in low elo too. Nocturne is strong. Jarvan is strong. Warwick is strong, so Rammus is strong. Yeah, I know that Amumu is boring. I understand no one actually wants to play him, but if you're just learning the game, you're trying to get to gold pretty easily, lock in Amumu, do good ganks, win your team fights, keep it simple, focus on tracking and avoidance. You don't need to invade and overcomplicate things. You'll have a great time in low elo getting to gold. All the champions on this list provide you different versatilities in terms of how to carry in this MMR. From your king of low elo this season at the moment is Nocturne with your split push, your farming, your macro, Lilia with your farming and scaling and gold per minute in your team fighting. They all offer something that really works well in low MMR. So while they're more played champions, while there are different sort of options, and Kayn of course can still work here as well, I view these 8 as the ones that will allow you to harness the jungle theory needed, as covered in all of my material, course-wise and on YouTube-wise, in terms of getting to gold as fast as possible. Finally, we have the high elo page, and obviously with the Gwen buff, she has become quite obnoxious. The win rate doesn't represent it, but she is one of the OP junglers in high elo. Definitely can work in Diamond Plus, but at the moment, keep an eye on that win rate, it will go up. The champion is absolutely juiced, and this is quite a tough one because I chose to eliminate Rek'Sai. I chose to eliminate Kha'Zix from this list, but don't perceive that as, hey, they're bad in high elo. They're not, they're great, they're amazing. Kha'Zix's win rate is a little bit lower because people know how to play against it. Rek'Sai's play rate is a little lower because people know how to actually play other things in the meta that can kind of counter that sort of aggression. Things like Lilia, for example, that of course have percentage max HP damage on all the Gold Drinker Stridebreaker abusers. But you're gonna see a lot of Viego, you're gonna see a lot of Bel'Veth, a lot of Nidalee, a lot of Graves, and a lot of Lilia, in addition to, of course, a Jarvan. Obviously, the most played is Lee Sin over the most recent buffs and of course buffs to Gold Drinker, but at the same time, he's just not having that great success. I'm putting him here because if you are a good pilot, then you will have no issue executing this champion well. But I honestly think you could just play your Kha'Zix's and Rek'Sai's ahead of the Lee Sin, whereas I think Tilly is very, very strong. I think in the right hands, this champion is absolutely monstrous, but it really does take time for her to take off in terms of you playing her. You gotta put in the games, understand how to use the W properly, use it with your E properly, space your Q1s and Q2s, use your R appropriately. Most Talias actually underuse their R quite a lot. And you have the ability to disengage certain champions in this meta. Look, Graves wants to dash, now you can't. Nidalee wants to Cougar form W, now she can't. Jarvan wants to EQ, now you can't. You understand the disengage and the anti-mobility she provides, as well as scaling, wave clear, a true omnivore jungler. Viego obviously, just as always, popular and successful in high elo, especially in Korea. But don't forget there are many junglers you can use on high elo. Obviously this is just the ones with the most presence and the most impact, and the ones you will see the most if you go scouting like we do. As always, these are the best junglers for patch 13.18. I will see you in patch 13.19, and if you want to understand exactly how the meta is working and how to counter it, the video on your screen now will answer those questions.